Hey up everyone, in today's video we're going to be talking about the current UFC champion going up against a UFC champion from 5 years ago. Now this was a suggestion by Jesse Davies 9125 who said, great video, you should do a number one contenders from 5 years ago versus current UFC champions. That's a cool, unique idea. I'd love to see your take on those matchups. We're going to do that, but obviously not the number one contender. I think it's better if we do the champion from 5 years ago versus the current champion. I think that's a bit more better and makes a lot more sense personally. But guys, whatever videos you want to see, let me know in the comments and we'll see if we can work around it and make somewhat of a similar video to that suggestion. To start off, we have a flyweight division, which will be Alexander Pantoja as the current champion taking on Henry Cejudo. And I think Henry Cejudo would win this fight. I don't want to say he was a better striker, but I feel like he was a much more cleaner striker. You know, again, Pantoja's quite a sloppy striker. And then when it comes to the grappling, I don't know if he'll cause many problems for Cejudo. When it comes to the cardio, I think Cejudo's a lot better at keeping it at his pace. He was quite big for 125. And I do think that Cejudo would win this fight. I think it would go the distance. I don't think he'll be able to finish Pantoja necessarily. That'll be quite hard in itself. But I do think that Cejudo would get the job done against Pantoja. We then move up to the bantamweight division where we have Sugar Sean O'Malley taking on Henry Cejudo. Henry Cejudo obviously beat TJ Dillashaw in 2019 at the start of the year. Then he moved up in weight and beat Marlon Moraes for the title at 135. And I feel like this fight's quite interesting. Obviously nowadays I think O'Malley would find the chin of Cejudo, but I think Cejudo would still do quite well. I think he'll do a better job of closing the distance than Aljamain Sterling did. But regardless, I still think that O'Malley would have won. And nowadays, I still give it to O'Malley, but I think this will be a very hard fight. It's hard to say because we didn't get to see how good his grappling actually was against Aljamain Sterling necessarily, because Aljo wasn't really able to shoot on a takedown, and when he did, he got finished. I don't know. I think O'Malley would take this. I think he'll be able to get maybe a third round knockout, similar to the Aljo one, you know, something to do with Cejudo trying to get the takedown and O'Malley just being good enough and able to counter it and get a finish from it. I feel like that's what would happen, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if Cejudo was able to win that fight. But if I had to really, really put my money on it, I think O'Malley would get a third round stoppage over Henry Cejudo. After this, we have the fight between Ilia Topuria and Volkanovski when he just won the bout. Volkanovski won the bout in late 2019. Therefore, it's Ilia Topuria versus Volkanovski. Would have been a bit more fun if it was Ilia Topuria versus Max Holloway. But regardless, Ilia v Volk, and this is prime Volk, you could say now. I still think Ilia wins. I've seen a lot of people say, oh, Topuria wouldn't have beaten prime Volkanovski. I don't think Volkanovski looked shit at all in the Ilia Topuria fight to say that Volk wasn't. I'm not going to say he's in his prime, but I don't know. I don't see what would have changed. I think Ilia Topuria still would have caught a prime Volkanovski. I don't think it was anything to do with prime. I just think stylistically, you know, Ilia was a bit of a nightmare in a sense, but he has really solid hands, has great power, mixes it up really good to the head and the body, throws combinations a lot. I still think he would have caught Volkanovski even in his prime. We saw Chad Mendes catch Volkanovski. We've seen Max Holloway being able to drop Volkanovski twice. You know, it wasn't like Volkanovski was immune to getting dropped or anything like that. And I think Ilia Topuria still would have landed and still would have been able to beat Volkanovski. In the lightweight division, we have Islam Makhachev taking on Khabib Nurmagomedov. This is the exact same response in the other video from before, if you have watched that one. I think Islam Makhachev would beat Khabib Nurmagomedov. I think he's just more well-rounded. He's got better striking. On the grappling, I think Khabib's a better grappler, to be honest with you. But I think Islam Makhachev will be able to nullify Khabib's grappling and would know how to handle it and maybe keep it standing, where I think Islam is a lot better. I think the skill gap when it comes to the feet is a lot greater than when it comes to the grappling side of things. And I think Islam and Makhachev will get maybe a split decision or something like that. A very close fight, I do think it would be. I'm not saying Islam Makhachev would wipe the floor of Khabib, but I do think he would beat Khabib. I actually think, to be fair, I think Khabib has better cardio than Islam Makhachev. I feel like Khabib can go at a higher pace, a much faster pace, and is a lot more ruthless. But I still think Islam Makhachev will be able to take it against Khabib. We then move up to the welterweight division where we have Leon Edwards taking on Kamaru Usman. And we know how this fight went in the last two. And I think well, obviously, he just plays out the same. Like, you know what I mean? Like, maybe in an alternate universe, Kamaru Usman didn't get hit by that head kick. But I think it's quite unfair to then discredit the third win, where I think Leon won quite, I'm not going to say comfortably, but I had him winning the majority of the rounds. I think I gave one round to Kamaru Usman, and then you have the point deduction for Leon Edwards as well. But I don't know, it's just Leon Edwards wins. We've seen this 3 times and Leon won twice, so yeah, Leon Edwards beats Kamaru Usman. Then go up to the middleweight division, where we have Dricus du Plessis taking on Israel Adesanya. This is a hard one in my opinion. Ages ago, maybe about a year and a bit ago, if you had said who wins this, I would have said Israel Adesanya wipes the fucking floor with him. And I don't know, I feel like stylistically, Dricus might be a bit of a nightmare for Adesanya. Now, Adesanya will get a lot of offense off, but Dricus is just a massive workhorse. He's massive. He'll fight to the end. His sloppy striking simply fucking works somehow. And he does have better grappling than Adesanya, in my opinion. And when you mix all that up, I feel like that's when it creates problems for Adesanya. I wouldn't be surprised if Adesanya was able to get a finish against Dricus, because I do think he is very, very much better. That doesn't make much sense. He's the skill gap when it comes to the striking, I feel like Adesanya is much better. But I don't know, it's when Dricus starts to mix things in and maybe make Adesanya quite hesitant with throwing because he's mixing in with takedowns. That's when I start to see different scenarios playing out. I'm going to play it risky. I'm going to say that Dricus beats Adesanya. But if you picked Adesanya to win this, I wouldn't blame you in the slightest. I think this is quite a hard fight to pick for. But for me, it's Dricus du Plessis by decision, and a very close decision that is. After this, we go to the light heavyweight division, which is Alex Pereira taking on John Jones. We know how this plays out. I said it in the other video. John Jones wipes the floor with Pereira. Unless somehow Pereira could keep this standing, which he really, really can't. I think John Jones would really do bad things to Alex Pereira, and that hurts me because I love Pereira and I can't stand Jones. But let's just be honest, I can't be delusional. John Jones would ruin Alex Pereira within a very short amount of time, in my opinion. If Jones kept it undefeated, it would be a death wish. I think Pereira would just take his chin off, but that's not going to happen, in my opinion. I think John Jones would take Pereira down, keep him down, land bad ground and pound, or maybe even get a submission. I think it will be done in the first round by John Jones. And then finally, we have the heavyweight division, which is John Jones versus Stipe. This is a prime Stipe, you could say. I know he's already been finished by DC, and I've always thought, it wasn't a fluke with DC, but I've always thought, would that finish by DC had happened if Stipe hadn't fought Francis how many months prior? A few months prior, and taken some big bombs against Francis. I know he didn't get finished or necessarily rocked, but regardless, he ate a few big shots from Francis in that fight. I know he won that fight, but regardless, he still ate big shots, and I do think that played a factor in DC getting a finish in their first fight. And I love DC, by the way, but I do think if that fight with Francis didn't happen, maybe Stipe would have won that fight. And then when it comes to a prime Stipe against John Jones, this one's hard for me, but Jones wins. Like, stylistically, I think Stipe is a bit hard for Jones, but his grappling just simply doesn't hold up. From a stylistic standpoint, yes, but when it comes to actually being great enough grappling-wise, it's just a no. DC was able to do a lot against Stipe, and that's no knock on Stipe by any means, but Jones is just simply a different level when it comes to the grappling, and I do think he'll just wipe the floor with Stipe when it comes to the grappling. I think he'll get like maybe a 4th round finish by submission, something along those lines, just able to drag it out, tire Stipe out, and we'll be able to get a submission victory against Stipe Miocic in the 4th round. And that's who I think would win the matchups between the current UFC champion and the UFC champion from 5 years ago. Let me know in the comments whether you agree with me or do you disagree with me. Thank you for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.